Good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Lawler from Horizon, and you're very welcome to our webinar this evening. We are just going to begin now, and no doubt we'll have more people joining us shortly. So, to just briefly introduce, you may have already met or heard our guest speaker before, Emmett Savage, and actually I'm going to allow him to expand on his own background and in his introduction now in a moment. So really just to welcome you onto the forum, we will be hearing from Emmett over 30 or 40 minutes on what he believes and believes with great intent in that he has invested a lot in what he's going to speak about. So you'll be hearing from somebody who eats their own cooking is how we would describe it. So I think we will run for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then we'll take a couple of questions. And from that point then we will just begin to wrap up, and I think we will have a recording of this as well then that you can listen back to. So please stay with us, and I'll pass over now to Emmett to take the presentation and talk to you again shortly.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Hi everybody, I hope you can hear me clearly. Thanks for taking time out of your evening, miserable evening, which is you should drive traffic, but more importantly, we've an important football game on tonight, so I appreciate all of everybody who's forsaken the chance to watch the great game to listen to me, which is kind of funny. So I'm here so I've met a lot of you, and I hope I'll meet you again, but basically, as you might know, I'm a very active investor in shares, and I've been doing this for quite some time. I'm going to talk to you tonight about an opportunity, 3D printing, which at one of the seminars with Horizon I spoke about. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about this technology and why I'm of the opinion it's the next megatrend. I just have one selfless slide just to, I suppose, explain why I am here talking to you. I suppose first and foremost, I'm a passionate investor, and usually from experience, I'm sure it will resonate with most people that you usually end up good at what you love, especially if you practice it, probably because you practice it. So as it happens, I haven't had a bad history in stock investing, most notably over the last 12 years, where I've had a compounded annual return of just over 26% per annum, which is by any benchmark good. And I actually feel embarrassed saying it because I'm very good at selling myself, but what I would say is that this is what I do. I've a huge interest in investing and a huge interest in the stock market. That's probably what qualifies me to sit here tonight and talk to you. I am an analyst for The Motley Fool, or Fool.com, which is the world's best, in my opinion, a stock advisory service for individual investors. And my handle there, as they call it, is TMF Jazzy Sav. So I'm obsessed with all things stock related, and as I mentioned, I've been at this for over 20 years. I'm going to kick off by talking about 3D printing. What is it? Stereolithography is the geek name for 3D printing. I had an opportunity just over a year ago to fly to Red Rock in North Carolina, which is the home of a company called 3D Systems. Now, 3D Systems are the world's largest 3D printing company. So, and within 3D Systems sits the Chief Technical Officer, a gentleman called Chuck Hull, who in 1986 revolutionized the ability for us, as in humankind, to create objects with a technology that he patented and developed, where basically, just like putting ink on a sheet of paper when you print something out, this technology applies layer upon layer of a material to create a three-dimensional object. Now, in the 80s, this was very unsophisticated, but we've come a long way from 1986, evidently, in every industry. And 3D printing is now an industry that I believe is about to change the way humankind works, how humankind is going to evolve, and our perception of supply chain. Supply chain is simply, if you want an object, so if you, for example, have a set of Denby coffee mugs, and you've 6 of them, and you break one of them, the way it is today is you'll go down to your local supplier, your local pottery shop, or wherever you bought the original set and try and get a replacement. In the future, and not too far into the future, you will go to Denby's website and buy that design. So you'll pay simply for the design of that mug. And in your home will exist a printer very similar to an inkjet printer that you may have today. And this technology will create that broken Denby mug. In other words, it will build inside a box a mug just like the one you've broken. I just choose a random example off the top of my head by saying it's a broken mug, but this supply chain advantage basically brings from design into your home an object. So if you take the value chain of, for example, accessories for mobile phones, right now if you want a phone cover for your iPhone, you'll probably go into a Vodafone store or to some other store and choose a color and a design you like, and you buy it and put it on your phone. That's fine. That's the way it works. Now, if you think about the journey of that piece of plastic, it most likely has come from Asia. In some form. It's likely come from China on a big container ship. So quite simply, you've gone out of your home to bricks and mortar store to buy something that's been hauled across the world from the other side. Now, if you think about if we were to rewind again back to the 80s, if you wanted something printed, it's likely you'd have to go to a printer in order to get a sheet of paper printed up or type it yourself. Whereas we've all moved on. Humankind now knows you can print things everywhere and anywhere, in your office, at your home. It's no big deal. But it was a big deal when people saw it first. In fact, I'd say most people on this call here will recall the first time they wrote something on a screen, clicked print, and saw it come out slowly from one of those little pin printers. I forget what they're called. Arrays of pins would tap it out onto a sheet of paper, and that was pretty amazing. First time I saw that technology, I thought that was pretty cool. I saw something that I wrote, probably Emmett, clicked print, and out it came on a sheet of paper, and that was very, very slick. And it doesn't hold a candle to what 3D printing is doing today, and more relevantly, where it's going to go. I'm going to share with you some of the photographs I took at 3D Systems headquarters, and as they say, a picture paints 1,000 words, so I have several thousand words for you. Just before I do that, so you're saying, well, 3D printing has been around since the 80s, as I just pointed out. And actually, by the way, I did have an opportunity to chat with Chuck Hull when I was over in 3D Systems, and he is a quintessential geek. Basically, the man is lost in a world of technology, and his ability to commercialize this absolutely incredible invention, if you want to call it that, was limited. I mean, he's now built the joint biggest 3D printing company in the world, but really he had to bring other people in to run the business, and he's now stuck with what he does best, which is the technology, and he does it very well. So, sorry, back to that slide. So 3D printing has always been cool, but now it's profitable. And what I mean by that is there has been 2 forerunners in the industry, which I'll be talking to you about, and they've been around for quarter after quarter. They've really been just developing this technology to a point where it becomes commercially feasible. And just like most other industries, whether it's a laptop, home television, VCR, and all those technologies that come into your home from a fridge through to the oven, the price point that exists in the US, which is, you know, consumer central, is $2,000. And when you develop something new, you've got to get the price below 2,000 bucks, or people won't buy it for their home. 3D printers are now available at just sub $2,000, and they're starting to be taken up into the home. But you know, the home application, the home application is still, it's not very sophisticated, but it's highly sophisticated at the more expensive multi-million-dollar machines. The thing that I particularly like about 3D printing is that it's a razor and blade business model. And everyone here knows what this is. It's simply you buy something and you've got to pay forever to keep it going. The obvious example, hence the name, being a Gillette handle and the blades that you put on top of it, where most men and maybe some women have bought a Gillette product, and it comes with a blade and you get a certain use out of that for a certain time, but by far the money you paid to Gillette is a vast multiple of what you paid for that handle, the blade handle. This is what's happening in 3D printing. So you might pay, for example, $2,000 to get the machine into your home, but over the lifetime of that you'll pay very many more multiples of that $2,000 to get the to keep your 3D printer running. And I'm sure that will resonate for those of you who bought a paper printer for your home. You pay X amount for the printer, and between paper and cartridges, sure, you're throwing money at the thing forever. So I love business models. See that I less than 3, that's a heart, I'm told, and so that I less than 3 this model means I love this model. So a bit of romance there on the eve of Valentine's Day. This is the headquarters of 3D Systems, which, could be anywhere. I could have stood, on a hill in Swords and taken a picture, but I didn't actually. I genuinely went there, I swear to God. So there you have it. There's this building is labyrinthian. It goes on far further into the field than this picture actually shows. It's a big plant, and there are 3D Systems. I spent the day with Abe Reichenthal, who's the chief executive of the company. 3D Systems is a business valued at the moment at about $3 billion. Now that is very small, as I'll explain to you very shortly. But for the moment, I explain to show that $3 billion business is it's significant. It's a size that shows the business has proven itself, but on a global scale, there's lots of room to grow. So what I'm going to do is bring you through some of the photos I can show you. I can't show you them all because I was there with a very specific purpose to negotiate a specific application for this technology, and it's under non-disclosure. And in fact, I saw things in this place, and it was like I walked into a time portal. So I did show some of these pictures when I last spoke with Ian and Keelan a couple of weeks back. So I apologize if you're on this call now, because you're going to see it again. But hopefully I'll be able to add some commentary that adds a little more value. This is well, it's evident what it is. Two pieces of plastic shaped like males. The one on the left is the head, the bust of one of the engineers who work in 3D Systems. The yoke on the right, the guitarist, is I don't really know who it's meant to be, maybe Santana or Hendrix or something. But basically, what's really interesting is that the one on the left, the bust, this was taken, this printout, which is a physical object you can lift. It's probably the size of a grapefruit, weighs less than a grapefruit, but that head there was taken, a photo was taken of that gentleman with a camera. The camera looked like Wall-E's head, if you know the Pixar movie, so it's a stereoscopic camera, so there's 2 lenses. It takes photos from 2 different angles, and through a little bit of whiz-bangery, renders an image onto the screen of a computer, which allows you to rotate it with a mouse, and then you click print, and the box to the right turns away, and you go off and have a cup of coffee, well, a few to be honest, and come back. And within is that very figure that you see. Similarly on the right. Now the one on the right, it's interesting, it was notable to me because it came out of the printer finished the way you see it. So there was no touching up with paint or by hand. It literally came out of the box with all those colors there. And you could, and as I am being fairly critical of anything I'm going to invest in, would say, well, it's not perfect. It's a little bit grainy. But it is. But if you just think about this and where humankind is going, you'll start to understand why Dr. Atala this year got a Nobel Prize for, or rather a Nobel nomination for printing out a human kidney with one of these machines and planting it into someone who had renal failure and now it's fully recovered. So it's really, it's an absolutely fascinating technology. On the right-hand side, you'll see what looks like a coffee machine, and this is the lowest range, or the lowest, what's the word, the cheapest 3D printer. It's the one that they're going for mass market adoption on. And this is, and that's, so if you look in the top, it looks like a piece of floss, a green thing going in the top. That's plastic. In the block that has the 3D logo on it, it's being melted down, and that head, the floss, if we call it, is going into, is moving up and down and printing out an object. I actually don't know what that was, or rather I can't really recall. It was probably some toy. But on the left-hand side, you can see an iPhone 4 cover. It's very crude. I don't know what your resolution is like there, but when you lift that up and look very closely, it's like a melted straw that's been put down, and the holes are there because simply it takes up less plastic. You can do it faster. It looks novel. But frankly, this machine, the Cube, as they call it, this $2,000 machine, is the very, very, very thin end of the wedge, and it's like early adopters will buy this product and they'll bring it to their home and they'll find fun things to make, little cheap toys, but nothing of great influence or importance in your home. It is nonetheless amazing that now this thing, that's about the size of a coffee machine. It's no bigger than a coffee machine, but the point is that they're out there now, and the early adopters are buying these products. But with 3D Systems, there's 7 printers in the family. This is the 7th. It's the cheapest one, and it's the one that has the very low output, or the low grade output. Now, if I can just bang on just one slide, you'll see that, again, if we look at the right-hand picture there, this is a lamp standard. And what's really brilliant about this, firstly, in the background of the right-hand side, you'll see that 3D Systems last year won the best of CES 2012, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, CES, the Consumer Electric Show or Electronics Show, it's held in Las Vegas every year. It is by far the biggest consumer electronics Mardi Gras, if you like. It's like the Woodstock of consumer electronics. Tens of thousands of people descend into Vegas, and every vendor of every type of product arrives, from Apple right down to the smallest little technology company. So it was nice. It was noteworthy that amongst these thousands of companies that 3D Systems were picked out. And as an investor, stock investor, this caught my eye because they don't hand those awards out as easily as you might think, or as easily as they might in Dublin if there was a competition. It's not who you know over there, it's what you've got. And what 3D Systems have is a very, very impressive patent book or patent book, depending how you pronounce it, with almost, and Chuck, Abe, the CEO, said to me that what he was most proud of was that the workforce had grown in the last 2 years to something like 1,200 employees, whereas the patent book of technologies that they've got patents on had grown to well in excess of 2,000 patents. So this is a patent race. On the left-hand side there, you'll see what looks like a knuckle duster with a bag hanging off it, and that's because, well, that's what it is. And this bag was designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier on a computer, printed out. It was kind of cool, to be perfectly honest, as long as you don't have any, as long as you don't mind people seeing what's in your bag, because as you can see, those links are, excuse me, they're quite big. So you put something in that bag, you can see it, but that's not quite the point. The point is that this technology is starting to seep and creep into places that, you know, only the wisdom of the crowd, the many, will come and converge on. And what I mean by that is, for those of you who read Steve Jobs' autobiography, or was it his biography, rather, he said that, look, once we give developers the technology to develop apps with a great device that supports it, that knows your pan and tilt of your phone and where you are, great things will be designed by other people that we can't envisage now. So, you know, as we all know, we have applications that every day there's novel apps being released into iPhone's marketplace, and they change the way our productivity. Similarly, 3D Systems have opened up their technology to allow people with various skills in every industry to use their technology to the mutual advantage of their business and, of course, 3D Systems. Now, it's just occurred to me, I have to declare that 3D Systems is my largest stock, it's my largest asset. I left this meeting here at 3D Systems headquarters, and I bought quite heavily into the company by my standards, and the stock has been the #2 performing stock in the world over the last year, which will probably make some of you, or perhaps even all of you, think, well, that's it, you've missed the boat. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that before we finish up here. So the reason I'm telling you this is that I have a vested interest in telling you that this is a great company, but that absolutely is not my motivation. I don't, frankly give a damn what anyone does. But this, I have to declare that this, I'm a shareholder in this company, and I'm here singing its praises, and that sounds a little bit rich, as they say, but that's not my intention at all. I just hope to bring something of value to you. So on the next slide here, on the left-hand side, you can see a mathematical algorithm. It's very geeky, but for someone who has an interest in maths, this is quite an incredible creation on the left, because to fabricate this, to machine it, to mold it is now impossible. It's a mathematical equation printed out. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll get it. If not, you'll just see it's a pretty cool thing. On the right-hand side, we're moving up now into printers that are considerably more evolved than the Cube. So you can see a rose there, which was made out of a wax-like substance, and dinosaurs and bits and bobs. What's interesting really is that the materials, the raw material that goes into a 3D printer can be anything, because it's melting it down to nearly an atomic level and layering it up from the ground. So if you take on the left-hand side, there was some kind of metal alloy, and then we have wax on the right-hand side, our wax-like products. So one of the first questions might be, well, what are these things made out of? And with the Cube, the machine we saw a minute ago, it was just coarse plastic that's melted down and blown down. But it really gets very, very refined as we go through the product of materials. This evidently is a shoe, but it's very hard. Like, it's not, you wouldn't put it on your foot. And this, I hope I'm not in breach of NDA, is how Clarks pre-sell all their shoes. They print off shoes that they intend selling, and they bring it into buyers of the great big shoe retailers and say, this is a shoe we intend manufacturing, how many will you buy? So it allows rapid prototyping. So Clarks don't have to employ whatever it is that takes to get a shoe made, the shoemakers, designers, and buy the leather and whatnot. They literally can design a shoe on a computer, allowing them to modify details very, very simply with design staff. And then they print out the shoe, as you can see there, and with the exception of the buckle, which kind of looks, well, I would probably switch a lot of buyers off, but that's just to represent a gold buckle, I presume. But it allows them to print off a shoe in a pretty quick time with one of the pricier printers and bring it into buyers. And this is just another picture. Again, I hope the resolution on your screen is good, but again, a sandal, or rather a 3D printed sandal. It's not, you wouldn't wear it, it's too hard, it's not malleable at all, it would snap if you walked in it, but it allows you to lift, touch, feel, look closely at the stitching and get a feel for what this product will be like should you be in charge of buying the product for a retailer, and you have a good judgment for what shoes are going to move. So this is just one of thousands, countless thousands of examples, and again, I'm bound by secrecy, legal secrecy on some of the stuff I saw there, but I can only tell you that it's pretty impressive where this is going. As I mentioned, this is rapid prototyping, what we're looking at here on this shoe. So in other words, a prototype, a once-off is made. But on the other end, 3D printing is also used for fabrication, to make the real thing. And the example that I gave recently when I spoke to all there at the last Horizon seminar was BMW dashboards are now being printed off by 3D Systems printers. And for businesses in fabrication, they're spilling through the front door of Stratasys, the principal competitor of 3D Systems, and 3D Systems to understand what can they do with this really great technology. This was, I like this picture, not because of its photographic merit, but just that was so tiny. I mean, my camera on my iPhone couldn't focus on this little mini city that they printed off. And at the bottom of the picture, you'll see a marina, and I guess there was no application to this printout, but simply to show that with very fine detail. I mean, you're squinting to see this. You could put this little wee city on your thumbnail. So that was really impressive. That you're going down to that kind of level of detail. But it's really nothing when you think they're printed off human organs. But there you go. The next picture, again, couldn't really get my camera to focus on it, but this picture is underwhelming at first till you realize that every F-18 or F-19 fighter jet in the US Air Force has over 100 components that were exclusively made by 3D Systems, because they have characteristics that can only be fabricated with a 3D printer. You could not, you couldn't heat mold this. You couldn't, you couldn't machine it. It's just this was made of wax deliberately because it needs to crush under certain conditions. So, you can see my two fingers holding it there, and then I crushed down on that, and it just melted as thin as as thin as you could imagine. And they're hair-like filters. So an F-19 jet is full of parts that can only be 3D printed. So it's allowing aviation, automobile, telecommunication companies to start to do things in a way that previously were not envisaged. This is an engine block, as some of you might recognize, and I thought this was amazing, really, because one of the services that 3D Systems provide is that if you have something you need made, if you like, you send them in the design and they'll print it off and ship it off to you. And this, like previously, this is an engine block off a Mustang V8 by the looks of things, and if you had a Mustang that needed a new engine block, previously you were looking at quite a significant engineering project. You're looking at a very skilled work person creating a block of metal that looks just like the thing you're looking at there. 3D Systems printed out, it's actually a polymer compound. The actual plastic used is lighter than steel. It's stronger than steel. It withstands heat and it's far lighter. It withstands heat far better than steel, and it's far lighter. It also has the expansion and contraction characteristics of a metal. So that was amazing, really, because for anyone who's come from or has a view of industrial or steelwork, this is just amazing that a polymer now can be can be printed off. So this thing, this engine block, it was quite sizable. It kind of went, probably at 2 feet, 3 feet off the ground. It was easy to lift. It was not heavy. I could lift it with one arm. It's extended, so there's absolutely not a chance you'd lift an engine block like that made out of a metal. Again, just to show one of the applications. Lady Gaga's shoe, I guess I got starstruck. I had to take a picture, and the point of this was she had these printed off for her appearance at the Oscars, which occurred kind of a week or two after I was in there. And I spent about 8 hours with the CEO. I mean, I was in there for, well, I guess you could say 3 reasons. Principally, as a personal investor. Secondly, representing a multinational corporate. And thirdly, as a stock analyst. So I guess I had 3 good reasons to have the full fury of this chief executive's attention. And he was great. And there was nothing. He divulged a whole lot to me. So I'm including Lady Gaga's shoes. So there you go. What more could you ask for? And you can see on the side of it there an iPhone holder. So she arrived with her iPhone down in her shoe, and I don't know what all the other little bits are, but there you have it. It's a printed off pair of shoes. Again, it's less about Lady Gaga's shoes. There's no revenue in those shoes, not a bit. But what it is about is, if you think about where is this going, what is retail going to look like in 10 years from now? Will we need to bring plastic, leather, or electrical components from the far side of the planet to the Extravision up the road, for example? I don't think so. This was just one of the engineer's desks, and she had clearly a great passion for the very industry in which she works, and she printed off loads and loads of stuff, dragons and Jabba the Hutt and all that kind of stuff. And I really took this picture for my son, but there you have it. You can see it speaks for itself, hemming and hawing. This is some kind of toy that's big in Korea, and again, this is where actually the technology has gone up here, because this was soft. This wasn't hard. This felt soft and cuddly, and the way you'd want a toy to be for a young child, and this was, it was squishy, and again, pretty impressive considering it came out of a box. So it was on a screen. A designer had this thing on their screen, and then click print, and off out it came out of a box a little while later. And this is Iron Man in diapers, as they call it. You can see him holding his nappy pin there, and again, the quality of finish is really, really good. So what we spoke about at a few pictures back there with the Jimi Hendrix-like Carlos Santana type character, which is a little bit rough, we're not seeing it as we're going up through the printers. And this little chap's knees moved and his feet, and you could position his arms and his head. It's really cool. Like, this is cool. Like, this wasn't made, no human hand touched this until it was pulled out of the box, ready to go as you see it. Now you can see behind Iron Man, baby Iron Man there's a little bit of something helping him stand up, but that's just laws of physics and gravity, I guess, at play, as opposed to the quality of the finish. This was one of the most impressive things I saw. I certainly, unfortunately, can't divulge the most impressive thing I saw, and I can't even allude to it, and I never have. But this is a Formula One car, and with the exception of the vulcanized rubber, the entire thing was printed. Now, what's so impressive about this is that the full scaled down F1 engine is in there, and it runs on petrol or gasoline, as they call it. And that gentleman there in the picture is the chief exec, that's Abe, and they lifted this down and off it went into the car park, which you can see just out the sunny window in the background there, and this thing spun around the car park remotely, and it's just amazing. It really is amazing, and it is going to be world changing. Now, whether or not 3D Systems are the ones at the front of that charge, I can't say. They're certainly at the front of it today, but we all know that the first mover might not necessarily be the long-term winner. Just a photograph backwards of the really expensive machines, and if you can see it, no you can't. Well, this was the room in which the engine block that I showed you was printed off in, so it's the service area where you have something you wanted finished to the most exacting standards, and one of these boys prints it off, and it was in there. And they're fairly big things there. They're big printers, those 3D printers. They're kind of just, you barely fit one into a box room in a bedroom, in a box room in a home. So they're big things. So what has this to do with Starbucks in '99? And I'm going to tell you what this is to do with Starbucks in '99. I was in San Francisco towards the end of 1999. I wasn't long out of college. Well, it was a few years, but at least I could afford a trip to San Fran. And I recall going into Starbucks, and apologies for those of you who might have heard this one before. I went to Starbucks and I thought it was the Starbucks. I didn't realize Starbucks was a chain of restaurants, or rather coffee shops. I soon learned as I walked down the street that there are Starbucks everywhere in San Francisco. So it prompted me to look at the company's financials and see, was this a good investment? And this was pretty much what I saw. Well, I took this picture today, but it is what I saw at that time regarding growth. So I was there, and you can see this graph shows you that shares in Starbucks, if you look on the bottom left-hand side, were kind of hanging around $3.96, and fast forward to when I was there, and they were touching $10, and I learned a valuable lesson, I suppose, in one respect, but I felt that's it, I've missed it, and Starbucks has grown, and there you go, it was 3 and now it's 10, and this is repeatedly one of the mistakes that you can make if you're looking for a mega trend. So I'm a growth investor, as Ian mentioned, and this is, I spend my time studying and networking with people who are concerned with where is humankind going and how do you invest in that. And Starbucks is a perfect example of that. This was the first play into multinational corporate coffee shop. I mean, there was no McDonald's of coffee until Starbucks came along. In fact, you could argue that really the only global competitor to Starbucks today is maybe McDonald's. They have a kind of a premium coffee offering there now. But this was it, and I didn't buy Starbucks in '99 and hold them. Now, on my next slide, you'll see Starbucks since that day, and that's a sad face. I did that piece of art as well, just like the heart earlier. I did that one. So you can see there, bottom left-hand side is the $10, but here we are today, and Starbucks is about $60. So in that time frame, in those 10 years or so, Starbucks has gone up sixfold. Now that might disappoint some of you, but frankly, that's a damn good return to have a sixfold return in a decade. I don't know too many more assets that go up sixfold in 10 years. Our hearts and minds will race to the property boom in Dublin, or rather across the country. But really, investing in the next big thing is something that I truly believe in, because every stock I've looked at has brought me some form of lessons, some in the form of great monetary rewards and some in the form of losses, and the others in the form of missed opportunities. But I review everything. You know, if I buy something, I'll look to see if that company is listed in the stock exchange within reason. Now, if I went down to my local cabinet maker and asked him for something, I certainly wouldn't look to see if he's on the exchange. If he was, I'd be mightily surprised. So this is 3D Systems today. So like the slide 2 slides back. 3D Systems, #1 performing stock in the world. #2 performing stock in the world in 2012. So you could sit, stand, or otherwise and say, well, that's it. The ship has sailed. I don't believe that to be the case at all. I believe that this is very early stage investing in a megatrend. So I can't tell you what that part 2 is going to look like in 10 years. I hope I'll be doing great webinars in 10 years where I will be able to fill in this slide and show you how it's gone in the 10 years since 2013. I don't know. So, but you know, I could feel that the growth that has occurred in 3D Systems and its principal competitor Stratasys, which I'll talk about in a moment, could be perceived as, well, that's it, the growth has happened. I happen to believe not at all. And this hopefully will illustrate that point. So these are just companies I randomly chose today to show their size, and I'm displaying size by market cap or market capitalization. For those of you who've heard me speak in the past, you'll know this is the measure of a company's size, and it's simply measured by taking the total number of shares in existence and multiplied by the share price. And actually, sorry, somebody has the microphone on there. Might be Ian, but hello. Hello, Ian.
All is good, Emmett.
Okay, Ian, turn off that microphone, lad. So basically we have, you can see on the left-hand side, Apple, and that's a $439 billion company as of today. Disney is a $100 billion company. These are giant companies. Caterpillar, the earth movers, Nike, sports company, funny enough, exactly half the size of Disney. Ford, pretty much the exact same size as Nike as businesses go. I just threw in two Irish companies, two successful Irish companies, again for benchmarking purposes in your mind to get a feel. CRH, its market cap is $15 billion at the moment, and Ryanair is $11.7 billion. So as of this morning, 3D Systems market cap was $3.6 billion, and Stratasys was $3.1 billion. And then just for fun at the end there, Crocs, the guys who make, you know, the shoes, and whose lunch will be eaten by 3D printing. They're at $1.4 billion. So this is to show the gamut of growth, if you will. Now, I don't believe for a second, absolutely no way, will 3D Systems and its competitor Stratasys, both of which I own shares in, will grow to be as big as Apple. I don't believe they'll grow to be as big as Disney. but I have a hunch they won't be too far off if you buy them in a pair. So I have bought shares in 3D Systems. It's, as I repeatedly mentioned, my number one asset, and Stratasys is about my third biggest holding. Netflix is my number two again, after a little sojourn there. So 3D Systems, Stratasys, in my opinion, are going to capitalize on a mega trend, a world-changing trend, and I can't divulge everything I know, but I can divulge a heck of a lot of it, and I hope you've seen that here this evening, that, you know, what these printers are doing, it actually takes a little while for your brain to catch up with what's actually happening. So I would certainly urge people, just out of interest's sake, to have a look at the technology, to Google 3D printing, to see what's out there and get a feel for the technology as it is today. Oh, so I'm not very good at this. Ian, turn that mic back on. So this is to explain that on Saturday week I'm going to...
Okay.
Yay! Thank you. He's cut me off.
Okay, don't worry. Okay, folks, so yeah, it's Ian here again. And again, not to try, you know, tonight's exercise isn't to convince everybody to go out and buy 3D printing companies' stocks. One of the questions that we received through the course of Emmet's talk there was if this opportunity was available to ordinary investors. And of course it is. Both companies that Emmet mentioned are listed, I presume, on the New York Stock Exchange or on the NASDAQ, Emmet?
That's correct, Ian. They are indeed.
And you can say I'm property to the core, and you know, so I haven't gone out and bought all of my stocks just yet. So basically, the reason for tonight's webinar was just to let Emmet expand on a little like one of the aspects to his knowledge, and it's one of the things that you know we're so glad to have Emmet involved on is just with regard to his ability to just explain it in simple language. And again, he's practicing what he preaches here. That's, you know, so key to me. He's passionate about a company and he has invested money in it, and that can't be said for most of the commentators, etc., that you hear. So just bringing us to Saturday, February 23rd, we thought, following Emmet's talk for us in January, that there was so much interest. I think Emmet was contacted by 20 of the people that were at the seminar, or more than 20 people, or that were at the that were at the evening. They contacted him to see if they could meet up with him, and of course, you know, it's not easy to offer out your time as much as that. So we have arranged a one-day seminar with Emmet, and it's Saturday week. It's up in the Berkeley Court. It's €247, and if you take 2 tickets, it's $397. In fact, just for tonight, for those of you on the webinar, we will extend an offer that we had on the first evening, and that is, I'll just confirm the promotional code, but you'll put in a promotional code, which I think it's Financial Forum. I'll just ask Petya to that with me, and if you put that in as the promotional code, you will get the offer into the seminar for €197.